I took a job watching security cameras. Someone knows I'm watching. The job posting seemed too good to be true. Night shift security monitor, easy work, $30 an hour, no experience needed. All I had to do was watch a set of security cameras from a remote office and report any unusual activity. I didn't ask many questions. I needed the money, and this sounded better than stacking shelves or flipping burgers. The guy who hired me, Mr. Holst, was all business. No small talk, no explanations, just a handshake and a set of rules. No phone use during shifts, no sleeping on the job. If you see something unusual, log it and call the emergency number. Do not leave the office until your shift is over. That was it. No background on the company, no history of what I was actually protecting. Just a windowless room with 6 monitors, a logbook, and an old rotary phone. The first 2 nights were uneventful. The cameras showed a massive warehouse of shelves, forklifts parked neatly, dim overhead lighting. The only thing moving was the occasional rat scurrying along the floor. But on the 3rd night, I noticed something off. It was 3:12 a.m. when I first saw him, a man standing perfectly still in aisle 14. I leaned forward, squinting at the grainy footage. He was just outside the camera's blind spot, only half of his body visible, not moving, not looking around, just standing there. I checked the motion log. Nothing recorded, probably a glitch, I muttered, rubbing my eyes. But when I switched back to the feed, he was gone. I scrolled through the cameras. Nothing in aisle 14, nothing in any of the surrounding aisles. Then, a flicker. Aisle 7. He was closer now, still unmoving, still staring toward the camera. I felt a chill creep down my spine. This wasn't normal. No workers were scheduled at this hour. The building was locked from the inside. I checked the log again, no motion detected. I reached for the emergency phone but hesitated. What would I even say? Hey boss, there's a dude standing in aisle 7 but he's not triggering the motion sensors. Should I wave at him? I shook my head and looked back at the screen. Aisle 3. He was closer. I swallowed hard. He wasn't just moving. He was moving toward me. I scanned through the feeds, my pulse hammering in my ears. If he kept moving like this, he'd be at the security office in less than a minute. I checked the hallway camera outside my door. Empty. I turned back to the monitors. Aisle 1. My stomach lurched. He was in the last aisle, just a few steps from the security door, from me. I forced myself to breathe, hand hovering over the emergency phone, but before I could dial, the screen glitched. For a split second, the feed scrambled, turning into static. Then it returned. The man was gone. I flipped through every camera. Nothing. The warehouse was empty again. I sat there, heart pounding, hands shaking. Had he seen me? Did he know I was watching? And then, a single notification ping popped up on my monitor. New image saved, Cam 1. My mouth went dry. The system didn't save images unless I manually took a screenshot. I hesitated, then clicked the file. The image loaded. It was me, sitting in the security office, staring at the monitors. But there was something else. A shadow, standing right behind me. I whipped around so fast my chair nearly tipped over. Nothing. The security office was empty. No shadow, no movement. Just the flickering glow of the monitors casting warped reflections on the walls. I turned back to the screen, my pulse hammering. The image was still there. Me sitting at this desk, staring at the monitors, and something standing behind me. My hands felt clammy as I checked the timestamp on the image. 3:13 a.m., 1 minute ago. I flipped through the live feeds again. Aisle 14, aisle 7, aisle 3, aisle 1. The hallway outside my door, all empty. I took a deep breath, trying to think. Maybe this was a prank? A test to see if I was paying attention? Some kind of weird initiation? I reached for the emergency phone and hesitated. What would I even say? I stared at the receiver, heart racing. I didn't want to call over nothing. I needed proof. I minimized the image file and went into the camera archives. The system recorded everything in 24-hour loops. If there was someone in here messing with me, they had to be on the footage. I rewound the feed to 3:12 a.m. aisle 14, empty. Fast forward, aisle 7, nothing. Aisle 3, no movement. Aisle 1, still nothing. I clenched my jaw, my skin crawling. Where the hell did this image come from? I checked the camera feed from my own office, paused it at 3:13 a.m. There I was, sitting at my desk, alone. No shadow, no one behind me. I felt my stomach drop. The saved image was fake. Someone had manipulated the footage. I leaned back, staring at the screen in disbelief. My boss hadn't mentioned anything about monitoring me. I was supposed to be the one watching the warehouse, not the other way around. I tapped the keyboard, flipping back to the live feeds. Aisle 14, aisle 7, aisle 3, aisle 1. Still empty. I exhaled shakily, rubbing my eyes. Maybe I was overthinking this. Maybe it really was some test or a glitch in the system. Either way, my shift was almost over. Just hang in until morning, I told myself. And then a new notification pinged. My blood turned to ice. New image saved. Cam 2. I hesitated. My fingers hovered over the mouse. I didn't want to click it. I had to. I opened the file. My breath hitched. The same angle as before. Me at my desk. But this time, the shadow was closer. Not just behind me, leaning over my shoulder. I shot up from my chair, heart hammering. I wasn't alone in this building. Someone was messing with me. Someone who had access to the security system. I locked the office door. The handle was cold and stiff beneath my fingers. My mind raced. Who else had access to this place? I grabbed my radio and pressed the call button. Mr. Holst, you there? Static. Hello? Nothing. I swallowed hard. This job had felt too good to be true, and now I was starting to understand why. I turned back to the monitors, my body tense. Whoever was inside the warehouse had disappeared from the cameras again. I needed to get out of here. 20 minutes left in my shift. I could wait. Just keep watching. Keep the door locked. Call Holst the second my shift was over. I glanced at the cameras. And then a new movement alert popped up. A single red dot blinked on camera 5. I clicked it. Aisle 1. My throat tightened. Something had moved. The feed glitched for half a second. Then it came back. A man, standing inches from the camera, face completely obscured, only his chest visible, and something in his hand. I leaned closer, eyes narrowing. It was small, round. A piece of paper? No. It was a sticky note, with something written on it. I squinted, trying to make out the words, and then the man lifted his head. For the first time, I saw his face, and my heart stopped. I recognized him. It was me. I didn't move or breathe as I stared at the screen. The man standing in aisle 1 wasn't just someone who looked like me. It was me. The same uniform, the same build, the same stance. The footage was grainy, but there was no mistaking it. My hands hovered over the keyboard as I tried to process what I was seeing. There had to be a logical explanation. Maybe it was a pre-recorded clip, someone messing with the system, or a hacker trying to play mind games with me. But there was something unnatural about how he stood there, so still and deliberate, as if he knew I was watching. I cycled through the cameras, checking every feed again. Aisle 14 was clear. Aisle 7, aisle 3, nothing. I switched back to aisle 1, and the man was gone. I felt a tightness in my chest as I scanned the rest of the screens, but he wasn't on any of them. The camera system had motion tracking. If someone had moved, there should have been an alert, but there was nothing. Just an empty warehouse. A knock on the office door made my whole body jolt. It wasn't frantic or aggressive. It was soft, controlled, like someone was letting me know they were there. I turned slowly toward the door, staring at the metal handle, waiting for it to move. Another knock, just as soft as the first. I reached for the emergency phone, lifting the receiver to my ear, but the line was dead. My stomach twisted as I stared at the device. The phone had been working earlier. Now it was completely silent. I grabbed my radio and pressed the call button, trying to keep my voice steady. "Holst, this is..." A burst of static cut me off. For a brief second, I thought I heard breathing on the other end, slow and steady. I tightened my grip on the radio as another knock echoed through the room. My eyes flicked to the hallway camera feed. The screen showed an empty corridor. There was no one outside, but the knocking continued. I grabbed my chair and shoved it under the door handle. It wasn't much, but it was something. I tried to force my thoughts into something rational. Maybe this was an elaborate prank, something Holst set up to test me, but why? Who would go through this much effort just to mess with a new employee? The air in the room felt thick as I tried to think. My shift was almost over. Holst would be here soon, and if this was some kind of joke, I'd find out then. A new notification appeared on the monitor. My breath caught as I read the words. New image saved. Cam 2. My hands felt clammy as I moved the mouse, hesitating before I clicked the file. The image loaded. It was the same as before, the same angle, the same shot of me sitting at my desk. But this time, the shadow wasn't just behind me. It was leaning over my shoulder. I felt the blood drain from my face as I pushed back from the monitor. Someone was in the building. Someone who had access to the security system. I grabbed the set of warehouse keys from the desk drawer, my pulse hammering in my ears. The contract said I wasn't supposed to leave the office during my shift, but that rule didn't matter anymore. I needed to get out. The only exit was down the hall, past the storage racks, through a set of double doors. I took a deep breath and unlocked the office door, stepping into the hallway. The corridor was silent, lit by a single, flickering overhead light. My footsteps echoed against the smooth concrete as I moved quickly toward the exit. Halfway there, I heard footsteps that weren't mine. They were slow, deliberate, matching my pace exactly. I froze, my eyes darting toward the security camera mounted in the hallway. The live feed showed an empty corridor. I strained my ears, listening for any sign of movement, but the footsteps had stopped. I pressed myself against the wall, gripping the keys tightly. I had two choices: turn back to the office or keep going toward the exit. If I turned back, I'd be trapped. If I kept going, I didn't know what I'd run into. I took a step forward, and the sound of footsteps returned. Another step. They followed. I moved faster now, ignoring the pounding in my chest. The exit was less than 30 feet away. I could make it. Then, from the blind spot of the hallway camera, a shadow stepped into view. I stopped cold. The figure stood just ahead of me, half hidden by the dim lighting. Even from a distance, I knew what I was looking at. It was me. Same uniform, same stance, same posture. He didn't move or react, just stood there with his head slightly tilted, watching. My whole body felt frozen, my mind scrambling for any logical explanation. He slowly lifted his hand, holding something between his fingers. A sticky note. I squinted, trying to read the words written on it. It was simple. "You aren't supposed to be here." My throat tightened as I blinked, and in that split second he was gone. The hallway was empty again. The exit door was wide open. The only sound left was my own ragged breathing. The exit door is open, but something about it feels wrong. My shift is almost over, and my first instinct should be to run straight through it, but I hesitate. My breathing is uneven, and my fingers press into the warehouse keys so hard that the edges dig into my palm. The message on the sticky note is still stuck in my head. You aren't supposed to be here. The security office is just behind me, and the screens still display the warehouse feeds, all showing nothing. The building is supposed to be empty, just like it was on my first two shifts, but tonight isn't the same. My gut tells me to stop, but my body is already backing away from the exit. The air feels heavier, and an uncomfortable awareness settles in, like something is watching me even though the monitors show otherwise. A single footstep echoes behind me. It isn't mine. I turn too quickly, my vision blurring for a second, but the hallway is empty. My boots scrape against the concrete as I shift my weight, waiting. but nothing moves. The vents hum quietly above, and the lights flicker at the same slow, rhythmic pace they always have. I exhale, trying to ground myself, but before I can take another step, another footstep follows. This time it's closer. My pulse pounds in my ears as I move toward the security office, stepping into the doorway just enough to see the monitors. My eyes lock onto the hallway camera feed. The screen shows me standing outside the office, alone, staring into the room just like I am now. A movement alert flashes onto the screen. Motion detected, hallway camera 1. I don't want to look. I don't want to turn toward the hallway, but I have to. My body moves before my brain can tell it not to, but when I turn, nothing is there. The hallway is just as empty as before. I glance back at the monitor and my stomach twists. The hallway feed still shows me standing there, but just beyond my field of vision, something else is in the frame. A shadow is barely visible at the edge. I step forward and check the monitors again. The live feed shows nothing, but the saved image still has the figure standing in the hallway. I wasn't alone. The chair blocking the security office door screeches as I yank it away, stepping inside and locking the door behind me. I try to slow my breathing as I stare at the monitors, flipping through the feeds. The warehouse is still empty. The aisles are still clear. The hallway behind me still looks the same. But the system has captured something, and I know it's real. The radio on my hip crackles. I freeze. The static is light, almost too quiet to hear, but then something else comes through. A voice. My voice. Don't go. I don't speak. I haven't pressed the button. The words aren't coming from me, but it's my voice. I take slow steps back toward the desk, my legs stiff and unsteady. My thumb hovers over the call button on the radio, but I don't press it. I don't know what I would even say. The radio crackles again, but this time, there's no voice. Just static. A new notification pops up on my screen. New image saved. Cam 3. My breathing hitches. My mind screams at me not to open the file, but my body ignores the warning. The image appears on the screen. It's a new shot of the security office. It looks the same as always. Dim lighting, monitors, an empty chair. But then I notice the figure. He is standing in front of the desk, looking directly into the camera. He isn't in the hallway anymore. He is inside the room. And he is smiling. I bolt from the office, shoving through the door so hard that it slams into the wall. My feet hit the pavement before I can even process what I'm doing. I keep running, moving past the loading docks, past the security gate, straight toward the side of the highway. My lungs burn and my hands tremble as I reach the road, headlights appearing in the distance. A truck slows as I wave my arms, my heart still hammering. The radio crackles again. You were never supposed to leave. I barely register the words before the truck comes to a stop in front of me. The driver leans out, his face shadowed by the dim glow of the dashboard. His voice is low, cautious. You all right, man? I start to nod, but then I see the uniform. A security jacket, just like mine. And his face, just like mine. The weight in my chest is unbearable. My mind is trying to make sense of it, but nothing clicks. I take a slow step backward and he mirrors me, watching carefully. The truck engine hums low, headlights washing over the pavement. He isn't moving toward me. He's waiting. The door creaks as he pushes it open, stepping onto the road. His hands stay in his pockets, shoulders relaxed, almost like he expected me to be here. Get in. His voice is calm, casual, like he's offering a ride home after a long shift. The shadows from the headlights stretch unnaturally long behind him. The radio buzzes against my hip, but I don't touch it. My throat is too dry to speak. He doesn't move closer. He doesn't need to. He's waiting for me to decide. I don't wait to find out what happens if I make the wrong choice. I turn and run, ignoring the sound of boots hitting pavement behind me. I don't stop. Don't look back, not even when I hear the truck door slam. The headlights swing across the lot as the engine roars, tires screeching against the road. But I don't stop running. The sound of the truck's engine fades behind me, but I don't stop running. My legs are heavy and my lungs burn, but the panic keeps me moving. I don't know where I'm going. There's nothing but empty highway stretching in both directions, and I don't even have my phone to call for help, but none of that matters. I just need to get as far away as possible. The wind whips past me, cold against my sweat-soaked skin. I risk a glance over my shoulder, expecting to see the truck still there, idling in the darkness. But when I look back, it's gone. The road is empty. The headlights, the doppelganger, the sound of the tires grinding against the pavement. It all vanished as if it had never been there in the first place. I slow down, chest heaving as I try to catch my breath. My legs shake as I come to a stop on the side of the road. The only sound is the distant hum of power lines stretching along the highway. I should feel relieved, but I don't. The silence is too deep, too unnatural, as if the world around me is holding its breath. A faint buzzing comes from my hip, my radio. I don't want to answer it. I don't even want to look at it, but my fingers move on their own, unhooking it from my belt. The screen is dark, the signal weak, but the static is still there. It crackles softly before a voice breaks through. "Come back." My stomach twists. The voice is mine. Not distorted, not robotic, just me, speaking in a tone I don't recognize. It isn't a command. It isn't a request. It's a fact, spoken as if the decision has already been made. I grip the radio tighter, my pulse hammering in my ears. My hands are shaking, but I force myself to press the call button. "Who is this?" For a long moment, there's only silence. Then, the voice returns, calm and steady. "You never left." My breath catches in my throat. I open my mouth to respond, but before I can say anything, the radio cuts out. The power light flickers once, then dies completely. The cold realization sinks in. Something isn't right. I turn back toward the road, looking for any sign of headlights, any movement at all. The highway is still empty. The only thing ahead is the long stretch of asphalt leading back to the warehouse. I don't want to go back, but I don't know where else to go. The road behind me is just as empty as the road ahead. Either way, I'm alone. I start walking. My steps are slow, unsteady, but I force myself to keep moving. Every few minutes I check the horizon, half expecting to see the truck reappear. But there's nothing. Just the endless night and the sound of my own breathing. After what feels like an eternity, I see the warehouse again. The lights are still on, just as they were when I left. The security office window glows dimly, monitors still running. For a second, I consider turning around and walking the other way, but something tells me it won't matter. No matter where I go, this will follow me. I step toward the door, my heart pounding. My fingers are numb as I pull out the keys and unlock it. The hallway is just as I left it. The monitors still hum softly. The chair is still pushed away from the desk where I knocked it over. Everything is the same. But something feels different. I step into the office, my eyes scanning the screens. My stomach drops. One of the cameras is showing something new. It's me sitting in the chair staring at the monitors. But I'm standing here, and not in the chair. My hands clench into fists as I take a step closer. The footage isn't frozen. The version of me on the screen blinks. His fingers tap against the desk. He tilts his head slightly, watching the monitors, as if he's aware that I'm looking at him. I reach for the keyboard, my fingers shaking as I try to rewind the footage. But the controls aren't responding. The screen flickers. The me on the monitor turns his head directly toward the camera. I step back, my breath caught in my throat. He's watching me now, eyes locked onto mine through the screen. His mouth moves, forming words I can't hear. Then, for the first time, I see his reflection in the glass of the monitor. and I finally understand. I turn my head slowly, dread creeping through my veins. The chair behind me isn't empty anymore.